Welcome back, guys, to the Pest and Lawn Ginja. This is What's Wrong With My Lawn? Now, I developed this What's Wrong With My Lawn segment so you, as the homeowner, can copy what I'm doing to help diagnose issues on your lawn by yourself. So let me give you a brief overview if you're new to my channel. We're going to be looking, number one, at shapes and patterns. Number two, we're going to be doing water soil saturation test. Number three, we're going to be doing a debris test to figure out what's going on top of the soil. And fourth, we're going to be doing a pull test. But let's dive right into it, guys. Here we go. Starting with the walkthrough, everything appears to look pretty normal. Color's good. Now, this house right here is a client of ours, which makes it a little bit easier because I know the history on the lawn. You can see they've got kind of a weird stripe going on right here in this section. And overall, I'm not too dissatisfied. The view here is incredible. Overall, things are looking good. Now, I always get scared when I get calls the way that we did because people are worried about burning. And that's where it starts over in this section. They said they got some weird patterns. And as you can see, they got a weird pattern. Now, we're still gonna go over all our little steps here, but man, this one's a little scratch your head puzzling. But let's dive into it and figure it out. Let's start out with soil saturation test. Now, for those of you at home, you can do this a couple different ways. I love my AMS soil probe. I'll put the description in the link in case you guys are wondering how, why, what it is. But you don't have to have one of these to check water. You can very easily check water saturation using a screwdriver and checking the soil depth. Now, I'm going to start off in the greenest section of the lawn just to see what normal is, and I'm going to work my way into the dry sections. So the soil plugs didn't go exactly how I thought they would. The funny thing is the green area has less water than the brown area. However, there's a difference in soil. Here's all the soil plugs I took in the green part of the grass. Now, as you can see, we're dealing with a kind of a loam mixed with clay. I don't have problems with that. Now, the cool thing is, and this is the reason why I love these micronutrients, look at those thick, healthy roots. You don't find that in bluegrass in my area. The bluegrass usually maxes out with like a 2-3 inch root. These roots are chasing 5 to 6 inches, which is really, really nice. I mean, you can visibly see roots in this loam. Okay, coming up on this other soil sample that we have. Now, the plugs, they're not as deep, but they were breaking off under the ground, and we still have some really good, solid, healthy roots. You can visibly see the difference. It's not crumbly, it's clay. And it's funny because on the other side of the driveway, it's 100% loam, and this has clay in it. Now, as for water, I mean, we're October 23rd today. I would like to see more water in the soil, but these guys live on a secondary irrigation system, and they've had a lot of problems. There was a couple of wildfires kind of wiped out the irrigation, so I'm not surprised to see lower water contents. Really hope that we can get a better winter this year to kind of offset some of the damages that are going to be from getting the water turned off too soon. Now, a lot of you guys out there in YouTube land think, oh no, I got clay, it's a really bad thing. Well, clay has its benefits. Properly watered clay can hold a lot of nutrients, a whole lot of water. As you can see here by the plugs, it's still holding on, where the loam, it doesn't. It doesn't have that capacity to hold on as long. Now, the thatch/debris test that I do is really important. There's gonna be a certain amount of dead grass that's left behind by the lawnmower every single time it's mowed. Now, if you guys are mulching and you're actually leaving visible signs of grass behind, that eventually will build up on top of the soil, and it creates a big problem. It makes it so the fertilizer doesn't penetrate to where it needs to go, and also oxygen and water exchange gets caught up in that, and then the sun in the hot months goes down and makes it really hot, and it eventually stresses out the lawn, and you get kind of this clouded brown color. We're not getting that really rich, deep color. And so that's why it's important to check. Now, this lawn, pretty simple. As you can see, guys, very minimal amounts of debris. I mean, this came out within a 2 to 4 square foot area, and there's not a ton of it. Normally I'm pulling out piles with my hand, and every pile, it's the same. There's just enough, and as you can see, there's a lot of live grass in here. A couple of things that I want to be looking at with color. You guys got to let the lawns kind of speak for themselves. Now this piece here, let me see if there it goes. You can tell at one point this lawn was stressed out, and then you can kind of see the dots. Let me see if I can get a better picture of this. Here's perfect. So you can see those spores in there are an indication of overwatering, but then at the tip end, it looks dry. My guess is this lawn ended up stressing out for a period of time over the summer, and then they've kind of revived it and brought it back. Now I wouldn't be shocked about this because we had a wildfire in this area that wiped out their water source, and they were pushing all the water to kind of take care of the wildfire. But as you can see, guys, not a ton of thatch. It does have a little bit of debris sitting there. It doesn't really concern me. It's not enough to get in the way. So at this point, we want to leave it alone. You want to make sure that you leave the beneficial bacteria and some of the beneficial funguses alone. If they're not out of control, they could be very beneficial for the lawn. So this one's an interesting one. We know that at one point there was enough water in it. We're near the end of the season, so the grass is starting to go dormant a little bit because of the lack of water, not because of because the ground temperature is too low. So what I want to do now is just really get in the grass. We're going to do a couple of pull tests, see if we have any insect issues. We're going to take a bear claw and kind of tug on it, but I also want to look at the blades of the grass just to see what they're telling me. Now my next step is pretty simple. I'm just going to take a bear claw. I'm going to pull on the grass. Now I want to see if the grass is still intact. If it's not intact, I really want to see if the roots are intact or if the roots are not intact. That's going to be an indication if we're dealing with a grub problem or a difference between a cranberry girdler and a sod webworm. And then I'm going to have to go on to insecticide treatments. But in this case, as you can see by the pull test I'm doing right now, everything's solid. I don't have to worry about that. Now we're going to start with this area because this is our problem area. The other side's not as bad, and I'm not as concerned about it. But let's kind of get in here. There's a couple of funny things, right? You can see again, as we had the other side, we've got melting out issues, which tells us at one point they were overwatering. You know, we start coming through the grass a little bit and that melting out it's spread, but just right here you start seeing signs of red thread, which tells us a nitrogen deficiency, which is kind of funny. That's kind of pointing me into the right direction. Now the green areas of the grass are nice, thick, healthy, but if we really get in here into the older stuff that was there's the melting out again. So I'm just gonna keep scanning the grass, and I come in this area, and again I got more signs of red thread. So it tells me I think I've just about figured this one out, guys. All right, so let's talk about what the lawn is telling me. At one point, I know the lawn went dry. At another point, I know the lawn got too wet. And now I'm seeing red thread, which tells me it's an indication that the lawn doesn't have enough nitrogen in it to push the blade growth properly. So we know we've got an imbalance of nutrients. Now in those green spots, they're green and they're real green. So now I need to do a little bit of digging. I'm gonna take a time out real quick. I'm gonna call the technician who did this last service to see what he applied and how he applied it. Oh boy, all right guys, I'm back. No surprise here. I ended up calling the technician. He was a little bit worried. This is one of our guys that never has problem lawns. But apparently he had a malfunction with his sprayer. So what he did is he grabbed a bag of macro-based fertilizer, and he started spreading it out. I don't have a problem with this at all, but he kind of solved a couple of issues. Personally, I can't prove this yet, so I gotta go figure it out, but I think the spreader was broken. And the way that he applied it was a little less than half a pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. So my theory on this is that the fertilizer was just kind of dropping down and he was walking it. But let me show you this pattern. This is so funny. You can literally see where he walked with the spreader. Now I gotta give him applause here. This grass behind me, I think is when the spreader broke. He didn't realize it. And then this grass over here, he kept going. Now, the reason why I want to give him a big shout out and say well done is because the pattern, he did exactly how he was supposed to. He got a good overlap, he got a base layer. Now here I am back at our office. I wanted to see if I could find the spreader that caused the issue, and I'm pretty sure I found it. Let me show you. Here's the red-headed stepchild of the bunch. Now I love these Spyker spreaders. This one's probably 3 or 4 years old. We've gotten a lot of use out of it. Pretty simple device. We put the fertilizer in the top, comes down, comes out the chute, and this rotates and pushes the fertilizer out. Now you see a big problem here. Oh, this whole thing broke in half. Oh, this is crazy happenstance. It's kind of funny that this happened because it actually solved a problem. Now those stripes are really green. You can see the micronutrients starting to come out because it fixed the balance issue that it was having in the lawn. I know I've been talking a lot about balance because it makes a big difference. Sometimes you do have to push a lot of nitrogen. And in this case, the technician had it calibrated at less than a half a pound per 1,000. Now what was happening is this was spinning, it was dumping out too much, and it was throwing too little in the other areas. Now, the areas that got too much were probably getting about a pound of nitrogen on the soil, and that's what was causing it to go really, really green. Now, as I was driving out there, I was a little bit sick to my stomach because when you hear about burning, if it burns too bad, it's gonna make it ugly for the rest of the season, maybe even in parts of the next season, then we have to overseed. Where in this instance, it did the exact opposite. The lawn told us, hey, I actually like this. Can you give me more of it? I'm sorry, guys. This is so ridiculous. So, Ginja, how do you fix the mouse trap? Well, ninjas, it's pretty simple. Normally what I would do is I'd take a pound of ammonium sulfate and really just push the patterns out. Now, the interesting thing is the screw up told me what was wrong with the lawn. The lawn's just suffering from lack of nitrogen. It needs a boost to get back to balance. Now, the tricky part is this time of the year for us and the customer, they had a wildfire that depleted the water sources, so their secondary water's been turned off. It's October 23rd. We've got another month of growth. Now, the good thing is this is mostly Kentucky bluegrass. They've got some rye and some fescue in here, but the majority of it's blue. So in order to protect itself, it's gonna go dormant. So I'm not concerned about that. My game plan on this is gonna be a little bit different than it normally would. I'm actually gonna wait until the end of November when the ground temperatures get below 40 degrees. And I'm gonna apply 1.5 pounds of ammonium sulfate. I'm gonna let that overwinter. Now that's gonna degrade, and that's gonna push further into the soil. It's gonna make it a little bit easier for it to come out of its winter dormancy in the springtime, and it should provide the necessary nutrients in the soil. The reason why I don't want to put it down now is because they don't have access to water. Now, Kentucky Blue is pretty amazing. It's starting to put itself to sleep anyway, and it's gonna go dormant for the season here in about 30 to 45 days is typically what we see when the ground temperatures finally get below 40 degrees. So I don't wanna stress it out, and I don't wanna stress them out because they're limited access to water. So we're gonna apply this at the end of November. Oh shoot, guys. So the actual resolution was caused by an accident to fix the lawn that caused the mousetrap. But really appreciate your guys' support. If you guys have any questions or concerns, hit me up in the comments. Until the next time, guys, it's Pest and Lawn Ginja. We'll see ya.